Real quick, before we get into the show, I wanted to share a new service called Getita that Ken and I have been using that has made us over $10,000 in Amazon reimbursements. The service requires no monthly subscription, and Getita collects a small percentage of the money they recover for you. It takes less than 5 minutes to set up and works on all Amazon marketplaces. Go to Getita.com, Getida, and enter promo code FTM400. That's FTM for Firing the Man 400 to get your first $400 in reimbursements commission free. How much money does Amazon owe you? Isn't that a shame that for adults, that there are people that need to bring a slip of paper from a doctor's that's saying, hey, I was sick. I think as an employer, you have to ask yourself, what kind of environment have I created in which people are, one, skipping work, saying that they're sick, or two, requiring a grown-ass man or woman to bring a slip of paper like you're in elementary school.
If someone steals your laptop, if you drop it in a coffee shop and it breaks, if you have everything locally on your laptop, you're pretty much screwed. If you save everything to, Dropbox or Google Drive, if all of your stuff is web-based and all you have to do is go get another laptop, log into your Google Chrome, and everything is there.
Welcome everyone to the Firing the Man podcast, a show for anyone who wants to be their own boss. If you sit in a cubicle every day and know you are capable of more, then join us. This show will help you build a business and grow your passive income streams in just a few short hours per day. And now your hosts, serial entrepreneurs David Schomer and Ken Wilson.
Welcome, everyone, to the Firing the Man podcast. On today's episode, we talk about life after the cubicle, as Ken and I have traveled the world and managed our businesses over the last 18 months. Be sure to stay tuned to see how we paid for all of our flights using reward points from our business credit card. Ken, what's going on, man?
David, what's up? I'm excited to be in the studio today. It's been a while. And kind of share our story with the audience on testing out being a digital nomad and kind of what that looks like and everything. So excited to share today. We've got some special bonuses towards the end on how we did this. And so, excited to share. David, what is a digital nomad?
Well, by definition, this is a person who earns a living working online in various locations of their choosing rather than a fixed business. And, I first heard about digital nomadism probably like 7 or 8 years ago. And I can almost guarantee it was probably one of those Lambros on Facebook
right.
Targeting me for a course. And I remember having a discussion with my wife about being a digital nomad. And it just seems so appealing, right? And so I was working at an accounting firm and my wife was working at a counseling agency. In the morning, we'd both get our morning cup of coffee and drive to work. And then we'd come home at 5 or 6 and we had to do that Monday through Friday. And we just kind of longed for this idea of being a digital nomad. And so curious, when was the first time you heard that phrase?
Yeah. So probably the same thing where, probably 7 or 8 years ago, I'm looking at I was kind of at a lull in my career, looking around, okay, what else is out there? And I'm peeking out on YouTube and there's digital nomad. Oh, hey, I'm living in Thailand. I know Chiang Mai, I think is the home for digital nomads. And so I began watching, following some people, some influencers on YouTube and kind of looking that so it's been about 7 or 8 years. And, just like with everything else with influencers on YouTube, they're going to make it look like, oh, hey, I'm living the life, follow me, click here. So it was really exciting to me to see that visually, like, oh, I want to be on the beach all day long and I want to, not have any cares in the world. And so, on this episode, we're going to kind of share our experiences we've tested the waters on this and what does that look like and how realistic is that? And so, David, for you, what does it look like for you to being a digital nomad?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say from the time I learned about it until the time both my wife and I were digital nomads was probably 3.5 years. We started with her first. We started and really she did a lion's share of the work, but started an online counseling agency, which one, in my opinion, is just a better way to receive therapy, especially living in a small town. It's excellent. It also allows you to reach out to people that maybe live in rural areas and don't have that available. And so that was a great move for her in that she could serve the clients that she wanted to serve and again, be a digital nomad. She could do this online counseling from anywhere in the world. And then as the audience knows, I fired the man and have been, without a day job for coming up on 2 years now. And so that was our path to becoming digital nomads. Now, when we were working the 9 to 5s, we had this idea of maybe getting an RV, traveling all over the place and, working out of the back of a van or in coffee shops all around the world. And what I can tell you, we spend a lot of time at home. That seems crazy. We, for the longest time, kind of longed to be able to go anywhere. And now that we are able to go anywhere, what we've realized is we really like being at home. We live on an acreage. We have a pretty sweet house and 2 young boys to enjoy that acreage with. And so as a result, we spend a lot of time at home. I would still say I'm a digital nomad. I still identify as that, even though I'm not, working from a laptop, in a coffee shop in Thailand. I would also say that we flex that muscle sometimes. We do a lot of trips where I'll bring my laptop and work. And so anyway, that's kind of what it looks like in my life. Ken, what about you?
Yeah. So I want to share a story. And this is one of the influencers that I followed on YouTube for a while. It was a couple and they had a small baby, an infant, still crawling. And this couple, they were digital nomads and they sail around the world. And so they share their life with their followers. And it was really, I was like, holy crap, like really? Do they do that? And so, yeah, they do. And so it was kind of interesting following them, and their source of income is they're influencers. They have a YouTube channel. And so that's how they make their money. But just that lifestyle of like like they're sailing all around the world, living their life, and they're able to do that just by having a YouTube channel and online business, essentially. Yeah, it's very interesting to me. And also like, it's just kind of cool, like you think of your day-to-day life of going into a cubicle or to a job and to a physical space and coming back. And sometimes it gets monotonous. And so anyway, for me, it's really like I have and for all the listeners, everybody's like personal life is different. And so you may have children, you may not, you may have young children, you may have older children. It's going to really dictate how you're going to be, how much of a digital nomad are you going to be? How far on the spectrum? And so for me, my son is a teenager now. And so, although I don't I don't have to take care of him as much as I used to. And so I can flex that muscle a little bit more with traveling more. And so for me, it's more or less like I work fully 100% remote and I really can like go and travel anytime I want to. And so having that flexibility of not being able to put a request into my boss, hey, can I take a week off? No, there is none. It's like, hey, next week I'm going to be here. Next week I'm going to be here. And having that flexibility to me at this stage of my life, that's kind of what I'm flexing in terms of being a digital nomad.
Absolutely. I think from, what both you and I said, when we were on one side of the fence, when we were employed, we looked on the other side of the fence and thought travel. That's what digital nomad means. It means travel. But what I think, at least I know I have found, is it's really more about flexibility. And as you mentioned, it looks a little bit different for everybody. Another area that I like to flex this muscle is I work in the mornings and then at 8:30, I usually go jump in bed with my 2 sons and we have some snuggle time. And then we get up and we make breakfast. And like that hour is one of the best hours. It is the best hour of my day. I love that. And it would be so hard for me to think about giving that up, leaving the house at 6:30, doing a 1-hour commute in the car and not eating breakfast with my kids. Like I'd live in a tent before I'd go back. And so I really wouldn't. And so we're like doctor's appointments or permissions. This hit me the other day. I got sick, actually pretty sick, and I needed to go get an IV. And when I was leaving, they said, do you need a doctor's note? And I just thought, no, I don't. But isn't that a shame that for adults, that there are people that need to bring a slip of paper from a doctor's that's saying, hey, I was sick. I think as an employer, you have to ask yourself, what kind of environment have I created in which people are, 1, skipping work saying that they're sick, or 2, requiring a grown-ass man or woman to bring a slip of paper like you're in elementary school. And so anyway, flexibility. So anyway, anything else on this before we turn the corner?
No, let's talk about tips and tricks for traveling while we're working.
Absolutely. So I would say one thing is having a solid laptop. If you look at what it takes to start this business, really not a lot. You need money for inventory and you need a computer. And so I've got a brother that builds custom computers and they're just absolute tanks. Like they're awesome. They're super, I don't know a lot about them, but when you look at them, you're like, that looks sweet. However, you can't throw that in a bag and go to a coffee shop or travel very easy. And so I run my business off a MacBook Pro, and about every 2.5 years, I will have something go wrong and I'll get pissed off and I'll go to the Mac store and buy a new one. That's kind of my rhythm. But yeah, I think having a laptop is number one here. And I like monitors, and I run two 27s off of my MacBook, and that's a great setup.
Nice. Yeah, I totally agree. And one thing to add on to that on the laptop while traveling, and it's something that I've done over the last several years. I also, not to brag, but I also used to build computers that were tanks, and that is ancient history now because I cannot take my tank with me to a coffee shop. So a solid laptop. And then also try to use all of your tools online. And so like having like remote storage, just try as much as you can having it online, because at the end of the day, if something happens to your laptop, if someone steals your laptop, if you drop it in a coffee shop and it breaks, if you have everything locally on your laptop, you're pretty much screwed. If you save everything to, Dropbox or Google Drive, if all of your stuff is web-based and all you have to do is go get another laptop, log into your Google Chrome, and everything is there. And so it's almost like a quick recovery, if something happens. So that is huge if you can move to that direction.
Sorry to interrupt the episode. You may have heard Ken and I talking recently about a new tool that we're using for Amazon refunds. Now, I have used other refund tools like this. However, I can tell you in the first 7 days, they scrubbed the back end of my Amazon account going back 18 months and found $5,000 of refunds. And the nice thing about this is it's my money. Amazon made a mistake and they are just auditing my account. The other thing I really like about this tool is there is no monthly fee. They only charge a commission if they are successful in getting you your money. Go to Getida.com, Getida, and enter promo code FTM for Firing the Man, FTM400. This is an awesome tool. Can't say enough good things about it. Now, back to the episode.
Next thing on the list here is, this is a must. It's kind of funny too. Noise canceling headphones. And so if you're in a coffee shop, if you're in an internet cafe, wherever, busy place, working and being able to be on a meeting with noise canceling headphones is huge. We've got a link in the show notes here to the ones that we use or the ones that we recommend, but definitely those are a must have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would add that if you have young children in the house, noise canceling headphones are also a must. It's something when I get into my office, I kind of think about like when a football player puts on a jersey, he's like, all right, here we go. This is time. When I walk into my office, it's the first thing I do is put on my noise canceling headphones. And when I leave for the day, I take them off. And I wear them 8 to 10 hours a day. And I'm running Bose Q35s, Quiet Comforts, and that's been my headphone of choice for the last couple years. So
nice.
Anyway, I would say one other thing from a technology standpoint, a power bank is a must. And, I would say this is for probably more extreme circumstances where maybe you are living the RV life or you're doing somewhere where electricity may be out. But having a power bank, I think, is critical.
Absolutely. And yeah, if you're traveling on a train or on a plane or whatever, and, depending on your device, how much power it has, there's a link in the show notes here. It's a power bank that I use when I travel extensively, and it has enough juice on it to last I think I can charge my laptop 3 times and I could charge my phone 10 times. Like that's how powerful this is. And, throw it on the charger before you leave, grab it, boom. And then you have enough that you can be productive. If you got an 8-hour flight or 12-hour flight, you're going to have power that'll last you. One more last thing on here is, and this is something that hit me up over the summer, is always be aware of your time zone. And so if you're traveling extensively, Europe, Asia, whatever, and you're communicating with your team or your suppliers and stuff, and, the time change will catch you. And so just be aware of that, as well as you can change if you use like Google Calendar or something, you can change it to wherever you are traveling to. If you're in Chiang Mai, Thailand for 2 weeks, once you get there, you can just alter your calendar and say, hey, I'm in this time zone. and it'll switch all of your meetings, to your local time zone. So you're aware that, hey, your meeting might be at 1 a.m. now instead of, 9 in the morning or whatever. Pretty huge tip there.
Absolutely. The last thing I have on my list is having a business partner and a well-functioning team with SOPs is huge. And Ken, this is something that we've experienced. We've been officially working together for 18 months, but in that time, I've done 1 month sabbatical. You did a month in Europe, and then we've had like miscellaneous vacations throughout this time. And this is something that has been huge, where we're able to go and completely unplug, and we have somebody covering for us. And I would also add that, and this is where the team comes in, is if you have a well-functioning team, they should be able to work without you. If you are an entrepreneur and you think to yourself, if I leave, the wheels are going to fall off, then you need to develop better SOP and invest in your team, because that's something that's critical. And as we've grown our team, one thing we've added is an operations manager. And I think that will further allow us to take a step back from our business, and which, as we know, is huge. That's where a lot of the good ideas come. And generally, my best ideas don't come when I'm sitting at my desk.
Absolutely. A couple things to add on that one is, one, if you're listening to this and you're a solopreneur, hey, just these are like tips and tricks as you build out your team and as you get going and get some traction, things to think of, and if you do have a team, it's definitely time to think about, getting these SOPs in place and having backups. A shout out to my friend Radu. He gave me some advice a few years ago in that he forced himself to take a vacation every year for a month. And then he would come back and see what was broken in his business. And then he knew those are things that he needed to fix, new SOPs, new hires and things like that. And then year over year, or the more that you do that, the more you find out what's going to function well without you. And so, awesome. So, David, let's cover some of our trips we took and kind of what that looks like in terms of working remote and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first trip I took was a sabbatical. And this is when I left my day job and was transitioning into working for myself full time. This was awesome. I mean, we had been working really hard to fire the man. And when I finally accomplished that, I kind of wanted, give myself a pat on the back and go on a nice vacation. And so went down to the Florida Keys and went tarpon fishing, which was awesome. And I love to fish, and this had been like a bucket list item. And so we went down to the Florida Keys and spent about 2 weeks down there and love it. Definitely going to go back. So that was my first trip. What about you, Ken?
Yeah. So I've always been interested. I don't know if any of the listeners are, give me a shout or not, but I've always been interested in tiny houses, tiny homes. I think it's just a really efficient way to live. I think we're very wasteful with our McMansions and all of this stuff. And so anyway, I've always been attracted to tiny homes. And so I found one it was in remote Pennsylvania, out in the woods. And so I rented it on Airbnb and I went out there and stayed for a week. And so this was kind of like a twofold. One, I was really backed up with work stuff, and this was completely remote. And so I literally worked like 10, 12-hour days and nothing bothered me. And then I was able to see how I could function in a tiny home to see if I really liked it. Like I said, my son is a teenager now. And so pretty soon he's going to be off in college and doing his own thing. And so I'm going to be able to kind of flex that muscle of traveling a little bit. And do I want to live in a tiny home or not? And so no, it was really cool. And the answer is yes, I really liked that tiny home. My brain, I like to catalog everything I own and where is everything. And it's very stressful if you have a lot of things, right? With a tiny home, I could literally scan around and that's everything in there. Boom. And so it was much more efficient. And yeah, personally, I really enjoyed it, and I could see myself doing that again in the future. I don't know, full time or not, or maybe having one to go to for a specific period of time. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Very nice. Next thing on my list, and I'm very excited to announce this year accomplished a lifelong dream. This goes back to when I was 19 years old. I love to fish. That's one of my biggest hobbies, and was up in Canada with some buddies I went to high school with. And there's a brand of boat called Lund, Lund, and they're awesome. It's a fishing boat, but it's just an awesome brand. And I specifically remember this moment. We were sitting smoking cigars. It was at dusk, and there was a black Lund boat that was pulling into the docks. And I said, gentlemen, someday I'm going to own a black Lund boat. And this year I bought one. I did it. And then check that off the list. And so we have taken that to Minnesota and to Wisconsin fishing. and also went on some local adventures here. My little boy, Henry, he loves fishing. And it is my favorite thing to just go fishing with him. And anyway, so that's one thing that we've done going up to Minnesota and Wisconsin, was a ton of fun with this new boat.
Awesome. Absolutely. And it's great to, to be able to pull the trigger on those things that you've wanted for a long time. And yeah, that's a huge win. That's awesome. Next one on my list. This one was kind of an impromptu. This was last March. It's been a while. It was kind of impromptu. I didn't realize it, but my son was on spring break and it was like a week away, or it might have been 2 weeks away. And he was like, "Hey Dad, this is spring, I'm on spring break in a couple of weeks." And I was like, "Oh, wow, crap." So I thought, let's just he told me that and I said, "Let's go somewhere. I don't have to stay here. Let's go." And so we grabbed him and 2 of his buddies and we went to Florida for a week for spring break. And this was like a partial work trip. And so I worked about 2 to 4 hours a day every morning and then spent the rest of the day hanging out and going to the beach and doing those things. And so it was a kind of a good test of only working enough to be involved, but not, overloaded with meetings and stuff. And so it was really cool. And also something I got for myself after I fired the man, my gift to myself was purchasing a Tesla. I'd always wanted a Tesla. I'm a huge Tesla fan. And so I recently purchased a Tesla. It was just a few months old. And so this was also a way for me to test how it would work on a long road trip. I live close to St. Louis. And so driving from St. Louis down to southern Florida with the Tesla. And so it was a really cool experience and got to test a bunch of stuff out there. Lessons learned, brought those back. And so it was an awesome trip. David, what's your next one?
Absolutely. It was going up to Manitoba on a bear hunt. And again, this goes back to my early 20s. I was in a fishing camp and someone had cooked up some meat and they gave it to me. And it was the sweetest, best tasting meat I've ever had. And, I found out it was bear meat. And this particular area in Manitoba is like the blueberry capital of Canada. And the bears eat so much blueberries that they have purple fat. And so I was able to go up there and see a ton of bears, and it was an awesome trip.
Excellent.
All right. So Ken, what has been another trip that you've taken while being a digital nomad?
Yeah, absolutely. So the trip that I've recently taken that was the most memorable was I did what I call Euro 2022. So where I took a month off and traveled Europe this past summer. So the whole month of June, we did 6 countries in 30 days. We went to Holland or the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Germany, France, and Switzerland. It was absolutely amazing. COVID has been kind of locking me down for a while and I haven't been out traveling for a number of years. I haven't been to Germany or I hadn't been to Europe in over 10 years. So it was really nice to get out and do that trip. Took some family with us. It was a family trip / vacation / exploring Europe. It was an excellent trip. This one here, it was kind of I would call it a 90-10. It was more like 90% personal travel and 10% work. And so, David, you and I probably had the whole month I was gone, we might have only had 2 or 3 meetings and I was responding to emails and fires, but that's really about it. I wasn't attending daily meetings and it was really nice to disconnect. And so this was one of those trips where separate and kind of see if anything breaks. And, testament to you and the team, there wasn't any fires when I came back. There were projects that I worked on that were sitting, but everything in the company, it was kind of nice to see everything moving forward or made progress when I was gone. So it was really cool. I learned a lot about, traveling Europe and I learned about, the stuff we talked about earlier in the podcast, tips and tricks on working and traveling abroad or remote and being a digital nomad. And so I learned a lot. Power supplies, what to bring, laptop, Wi-Fi, your phone. What do you do with your phone if you're traveling Europe or Asia? And so it was really cool to get all those skills and, and be on the road literally for 30 days straight. Learned a lot. It was a great experience. David, we told the listeners early on that, we wanted to share with them about our digital nomad experience, some of our recent trips and us using that, and so now so the way we paid for all of this was very simple, very easy. David, you want to share with the audience?
Absolutely. So I am proud to say I have not paid for a flight in probably 3 years because of this particular credit card. It is called the Chase Inc. Business Preferred. And I'm going to post a link down in the show notes. If you sign up with that link, you get 20,000 extra points, which equates to about a free flight. And the reason this particular card is awesome is because it has a lot of different cashback perks. 1% for these categories, 2% for these. And in the 3% category is digital marketing, which PPC expenses fall underneath this. And so if you have an Amazon business and you are using PPC, one, you should go into your settings and select, actually I have it written down here. Go to Amazon settings, account info, charge methods for advertising, and you can add a credit card. So if you don't have this credit card, just add a credit card so you're getting essentially 30-day terms on all your PPC spend. And but then sign up for this link. And it has been amazing how many points we've racked up due to PPC spend. And you can look at it two ways. One, you get 1 or 2 really nice trips a year. You can use the points at a bunch of different places, different airlines, different hotel chains. Or you can think of it as, okay, the cost of my PPC just became 3% less. And on competitive keywords, that's huge. And so anyway, that is pro tip. Can't say enough good things about this card. And for all of our accounts, we have a card hooked up to it, and it is this Chase Inc. Business Preferred. So posted it down in the show notes. Go sign up and get your 20,000 free points. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this week, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's Firing the Man podcast. If you like this episode, head on over to firingtheman.com and check out our resource library for exclusive Firing the Man discounts on popular e-commerce subscription services. That is firingtheman.com/resource. You can also find a comprehensive library of over 50 books that Ken and I have read in the last few years that have made a meaningful impact on our business. For that, head on over to www.firingtheman.com/library. Lastly, check us out on social media at Firing the Man and on YouTube at Firing the Man for exclusive content. This is David Schomer.
And Ken Wilson.
We're out. Before you go, we wanted to share a new service that Ken and I have been using called Getita that has made us over $10,000 in Amazon reimbursements. The service requires no monthly subscription, and Getita collects a small percentage of the money they recover for you. It takes less than 5 minutes to set up and works on all Amazon marketplaces. Go to Getita.com, Getida.com, and enter promo code FTM400. That's FTM for Firing the Man 400 to get your first $400 in reimbursements commission free. How much money does Amazon owe you?